Hello, my soccer universe. My name is Roland and this is Football Talk. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the World Cup draw that happened yesterday evening, at least European time, and that I had now some time to digest. The groups one by one. We look what are tough groups and so on, but we also want to look at the projections as well. This World Cup draw has been eating my week ever since I came back from the business trip, and in the business trip I didn't catch much midweek action, and so yesterday I had to make a really tough decision to not record anything on the midweek action, and I hope you can forgive me for that. I potentially, since we have a long weekend in Austria, can pack this into a full episode in the upcoming week, early in the week, and I think that would make a little bit more sense, at least from my point of view. So yeah, it's the World Cup draw. I'm also making a video out of that one, and so you see all the nice jerseys in the background too. Pot 1 jerseys a little bit arranged. How they are arranged, we will see about that. But World Cup draw. First things first, boy was this a hard watch. Actually, I had parent-teacher meetings here in the evening, and they were scheduled to be done by 6 o'clock. We were 6:30 at home, and I thought, well, that's probably enough time that we start right when they start drawing the balls, because that should give enough time. And in Austria, the broadcast started at 5:30, and I thought, well, an hour for all the crap that is going to happen. And I don't even want to mention all about this. I mean, Infantino is just vomit-inducing. I mean, he is groveling at the world's leaders in the worst possible way. And I'll leave it at that. But all the acts and the interviews, and I watched it on the FIFA stream, if you have to draw in English, wouldn't it be nice for the Spanish interviews to have at least subtitles there that we understand this? I mean, it was all and music acts. I mean, the main action did not start until 90 minutes in, and then was done within half an hour. But this is the main draw, and I don't know why we need to really draw this out so much. We can actually make the draw probably a little bit more interesting. I actually wouldn't mind if these 20 to 30 minutes that the draw actually took, stretch these. And if you need a musical act, do it between the pots. But all these other stuff, get rid of it. We don't need any speeches. We don't need any presidents up on stage to then fake a draw. And we don't need any stupid jokes. Get this just done with. It's vomit-inducing, and I don't know who likes this. I have throughout, and I saw a lot of reaction throughout, the overwhelming consensus was, yeah, this was just too much. And this has been too much for a whole lot of time. And I'm also looking at you, UEFA. You're not that much better. At least you get quicker to the point. Be it as it may, just on the format, and I had prepared so many things with draw probabilities, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go through that now because it's just tiresome to go through it. We had the 4 pots, and I was very relieved to see Austrian pot 2, but pot 1 were the 3 hosts as usual, so everyone actually would, from the lower pots, would have liked to go into that pot. And then the top teams, Spain, Argentina, France, England, where we had also the restriction that they should not be able to meet before the semi-final, and in such a way that the 2 top seeds, Spain and Argentina, cannot meet before the final. If they finish first in their group. Also have to say that same thing goes then for France and England. And then Brazil, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany could go anywhere where they would like. Pot 2 then started with the restrictions. We can have only 1 team per confederation, but 2 teams from Europe because there are just too many European teams. So Austria were in there because in pot 4 all the playoff teams were assigned to. There was shortly a discussion whether to take the highest seed in there, but that would not be fair. I honestly think if you would have at least weighted the teams, this could have made a little bit more sense, because we know exactly out of pot 4, I mean, path A with Italy, but even path C, for instance, with Turkey, those are definitely nuclear options. I think no one would like to play Denmark either, whereas the playoff teams coming from the Interconfederation playoff, people probably, or the top teams would be more confident with them. The nuclear option out of pot 3 was definitely Norway. no one wanted to play Norway. I mean, there are other not so nice teams in there. I mean, some good African teams in Egypt and Algeria, I have to say. And Paraguay is definitely a team you don't want to play against. But Norway, given what they did in qualifying, everyone wanted to avoid Norway, especially here in Austria. And out of pot 4, I think it was all about avoiding Ghana, although I think people are overlooking Cape Verde and potentially even Jordan, for the simple reason Jordan were actually in the final of the Asian Cup last year, and they qualified on the first time trying, where you could already get qualification spots. They didn't go to a 4th or 5th stage. So don't overlook Jordan. And I could go now how the draw went. Now we're not going to do it. Here is the full group stage draw, and you see them sorted A through L, and now we have to, up until H, I was kind of fine with the letters, but now I, J, K, L, it's a little bit tough. Next to each team, you see a little bar that presents the average, or that presents the rating that I have created, which is an average of the FIFA rating, of the ELO rating, but I also use bookmakers odds to augment that one. So this gives us a little bit of an idea how even these groups are. And I would say let's run group by group. And the really damning thing is that, in the old format, we could say, well, groups A and group B, they will eventually meet and then go forward this way. We don't have that. I mean, there are some groups that are paired, and we'll talk about that. But we actually have to look at the final bracket, and we have also third place teams that might go through, blah, blah, blah. It is really tough to really assess the draw properly, but I will do my best in this video to go through this. But let's go first group by group, micro level, and then we look at it at the macro level. Hosts Mexico, got South Africa. We have an opening game, a repeat of the 2010 opening game. I find this poetic that when South Africa hosted it, Mexico were in the opener. And when Mexico is now hosting a tournament, South Africa is in the opener. In there's also South Korea and the European team from Path D. So that's the Czechs, the Danes, Ireland and Northern Macedonia. So from where we would see Denmark is probably the toughest team in there. As you see, the bar represents an average rating. It's weighted based on the probability the teams qualify from that particular path. So, the Czechs and Denmark are way heavier in there than do Ireland and North Macedonia. If I look at this group, it looks relatively even with South Africa being a little bit lower. Of course, if North Macedonia qualify out of that one, they would not rank high. But definitely Mexico and South Korea should be the favorites. I heard this is the South group because we have South Africa, South Korea. We have south of the border, and then we'll see who will come out of the European group. I am not sure how much we can go south there. Maybe with North Macedonia, but they would not fit in that group at all. Group B, Canada. That's the group that I wanted Austria to be in, and I'm so envious of Switzerland to have gotten that spot. Switzerland are already the favorites in there. There's Qatar in there, and then the nuclear option, potentially Wales or Italy. Of course, I would love Italy to be in that group, and it would be poetic if Italy play in Toronto, where many Italians are at. But let's face the reality that Italy is probably, if they would make the final, a little bit of an outsider there. So I think we have to see that. In any case, Switzerland have to be considered the big favorites in this group, and then we have to see who comes out of the other European group, but I would say Switzerland is stronger than either one of these, and yes, that includes Italy, and yes, I don't believe myself saying that, but this is how far Italy have fallen. Group C, very much France 98 vibes. We have Brazil, Morocco and Scotland already in there. Those three met in that group, and back then they had also Norway. Now they get Haiti in there. Yeah, it's pretty clear. Brazil and Morocco are the top favorites. Scotland, if they can get a point off one of the top two teams and beat Haiti, I think Scotland have a good chance of qualifying for the first time for the next round. Don't quite see it. But, it is a possibility. But I think Brazil-Morocco is probably one of the highlights of the group stage. Oregon, there's the open game that is a very, very early top game, I would like to say. The United States got a super even group and have to be at the moment considered favorites. And they played against three of the possible opponents already. They played a friendly against Paraguay and Australia just in the past window, and there were bus stops afterwards. So expect this to be spicy. And they also played Turkey not too long ago. And yes, I'm using Turkey because I'm not pandering to autocrats' ego in a way. But it could also be Slovakia, it could be Romania, it could be the Kosovo. Definitely interesting. If it's Turkey, I would say Turkey have a good chance to finish at least in the top 2. The United States also should actually make it out of this group. Germany also got a relatively easy draw on the face of it. On the other side, you don't know so quite. I mean, Ecuador is a true force in South America at the moment. The Ivory Coast are African champions. And Curaçao, yeah, they are a Dutch team, a Dutch B team, if you would like. So Dick Advocat is in there. So there could be a rekindling of some old rivalries. I find this one more intriguing than it should be, although Germany have to be considered the favorites. My first group of death. With the new seeding system, there is no real group of death. But if you would like to have a first group of death, is Group F. I think this is very even. It's a really tough group for the Netherlands. You play against Japan, you play against Tunisia, and especially Japan could give the Dutch a whole lot of problem. But you also play against one of the more loaded qualifying paths. Very even. Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, Albania. I think all of them could give the Dutch trouble. Poland twice drew them in qualifying. So just to give you an idea, and I would say Ukraine is slightly better than Poland as well. So the Dutch will not necessarily be happy with that group overall. On the other side, their neighbors Belgium, Egypt, Iran and New Zealand. Pretty nice group. They have to be considered favorites. And yes, Belgium is on the decline, but that same thing can be said probably for Egypt and Iran. And I think everyone will overlook New Zealand. Spain got it relatively cushy, although do not underestimate the Cape Verde Islands. Saudi Arabia, I don't think are in a good point. And then you have Uruguay, also a team in disarray. I mean, this is a group that Spain should win easily. But, Spain, Uruguay, there's a very spicy matchup as well. This is definitely one to look forward to. So we have Brazil, Morocco, Spain, Uruguay, and I actually want to say Netherlands, Japan is definitely a game that I'm looking forward to. Second group of death, Group I. And they have the odds that there's a playoff winner from Iraq, Ghana, and Suriname in there. But no, not Bolivia. Ghana cannot be in there because we have Senegal in there. So Iraq, Suriname, and Bolivia. That will be the team that will get loaded upon, and it could well come down to goal difference who finished first. France against Senegal and Norway. The first game of France again against Senegal. I mean, 2002 vibes all along. We have Mbappé against Haaland. The two most prolific goal scorers of the current time, and a Senegal team that is probably one of the best in Africa. This is a super intriguing group, but a really, really tough draw for France. That has to be unequivocally said. We come to Austria's group, and I have to say, on one side I'm happy, on the other side, this is deceivingly difficult, I think. You play against Argentina. Austria plays against Argentina for the first time since 1990, when we drew in Vienna against Maradona's Argentina in the build-up to the 1990 World Cup. So yeah, Austria against Messi, that has many people excited. This is the second game for Austria and will most likely, and probably by the time you're out, you can be confirmed, most likely be played in Dallas. At least this is what I would assume FIFA have decided, but of course it can be also in Kansas City. Then you play against Algeria, a team that is probably a little bit more offensive, and this is the last group game, that actually could be in Austria's favor. What I don't like is they have with Vladimir Petkovic, a former Swiss coach, someone who probably will know quite some about Austria. And then the first game is against Jordan. Again, a team that probably Austrians will expect to beat in their first game. However, as I said, they made it to the final of the Asian Cup, so also not that easy, and a very much a no-name team. Deceivingly difficult draw, I would say. Although on paper Austria should finish second in that group, and I think they have all the tools to do so. Next to Argentina, and note, we have, once Belgium got out of the pot, we had only the top teams in the draw left. Which means that there's definitely some chance that if one of the top teams don't finish in top place, they can meet earlier. Not good. Not good. I don't like that this is so clustered together here. And they all start late, which actually means that a team like Brazil or Germany could actually make a run. And before we talk about Portugal and England's group, I just want to note that, the Group A is the one that starts first, and then there's a lot of preparation time, and then it gets condensed. And we know that the team that usually qualifies first for the final has a bigger chance. Starting later might not always be the best thing. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a longer tournament. Very hard to say. Portugal against Colombia is another game that I'm really looking forward to. Of course, I'm looking forward to Argentina against Austria, but I don't think it's one that the neutral will have on their map. But Portugal against Colombia, I think that could be get your popcorn ready. We also have the qualifier from DRC, New Caledonia and Jamaica, so most likely the DRC, and Uzbekistan, a team that has now Fabio Cannavaro as a coach. I couldn't believe that myself when I saw that. And then Group L, I think, is another relatively dicey one, but I wouldn't call it a group of death because England and Croatia, yes, there is previous, but England now have definitely surpassed Croatia, so they have to be considered the top favorites. Ghana and Panama, honestly, should be teams that both of the European teams will beat, although Panama will probably have quite some support from their fans. So, this gives us an idea about the groups. Here is how I, based on the ratings, and by ratings only, project these groups to go. And the ones that are grayed out, I would project to get eliminated. So Group A, Mexico, South Korea, and the European team from Part D will make it through. Group B, Switzerland, the other European team, and Canada, only in third place, but will make it through. Qatar out. Then Brazil, Morocco, Scotland. Scotland is at least projected to go to the next round. USA, Paraguay, and Australia. Then Germany and Ecuador. Cote d'Ivoire, a little bit lagging behind, so I kind of went where there's a huge gap. Those are teams that will get eliminated. So it's the Cote d'Ivoire and Curaçao that will get eliminated there. For the Group F, it's Tunisia that will go out. The Netherlands ahead of Japan and Path B. Then Belgium, Iran and Egypt will go through. New Zealand out. Spain and Uruguay, Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde will probably not pick up too many points in that group. Group I will be rather level among the top three, but this also means that the playoff team will get beaten up on, so there will be enough points between those three teams. Similar story, I would expect that three teams, the three A teams, Argentina, Austria and Algeria will go through. We should move them back to Group A. Uzbekistan and the playoff team will be behind Portugal and Colombia, and also England, Croatia, Panama and Ghana, I think are also, Panama and Ghana will not pick up too many points, I would say. And now, given this format, and there are so many combinations of these 12 groups of which third place teams can move on, it's actually quite the mess. But if we have exactly them coming from these groups, then this would be the projected bracket. And now it all starts to kind of make sense. Can I say about my home country first, because we had the World Cup for the first time? Austria is completely effed in this group. Because if you finish second, which would be the projected one, you will play Spain. Look in the lower left quadrant. If you make the miracle and you finish ahead of Argentina, you're playing Uruguay. I mean, give me a break. And in this scenario, if you finish third, you play England. So, while many in Austria think that at least a round of 16 should be in there, maybe with some luck you get a quarterfinal, realistically, you need to go through a major opponent and, you play Uruguay is probably the least of them, but you need to beat at least two tournament favorites to make it to potentially a round of 16. That's really, really, really tough. I think Austria, when I look at the overall picture, got a pretty tough draw. But let's walk quadrant by quadrant. We have top left. Germany would play Australia, France against the B team, B path from UEFA. You would expect Germany and France to advance from that one, and I would say France will make it out of that part. The lower part, Netherlands, Morocco, really dicey one. by rating, the Netherlands should move on. I could see Morocco going on. This is also where potentially Italy is in there. And South Korea, Italy, whom there was previous. By rating, South Korea and the Netherlands will move on there. Whoever will move on, France will beat them to make it into the semi-finals. But I think this is a rather even one. And yeah, I could very well see Morocco coming out of that one. Then we come lower left, Colombia, Croatia, Spain, Austria. I mean, as I said already, Austria will have no chance against Spain. I mean, it needs to be an absolute miracle. But then you play against Colombia or Croatia. I would expect Colombia to move on, but even Croatia is a really tough draw, so it is really, really, really tough. Austria, I would say, is the weakest team in this quadrant. And then look at the bottom left, United States against Canada. Wow, what a great game. Go Canada in a way. I'm saying this only for political reasons, although I always liked Canada, to be honest, I have to say too. But it would be definitely an interesting one, and then you play most likely against Belgium. I think the United States could beat Belgium on home soil. I can definitely see that one. And then, Spain will make it out of the upper one. Then let's say United States against Spain in the quarter final. And Spain will then move on to play France in a potential semi-final. So it is France and Spain on one side of the draw, which also means Argentina and England on the other one. Now we come to what is slowly becoming a favorite of mine, although you don't expect much of them. It reminds me so much of 2002. Brazil look quite good. First, they play against Japan. Not an easy draw. That's for sure. And then Ecuador, Norway. So we have Brazil against Norway. Do you really see Norway beating Brazil? Nah, I don't see it, even in their current state. Ancelotti will find something against Norway. Norway is fearsome up front, but have an underbelly on the back that is probably something that could be gotten at. So yeah, I would say Brazil coming out of that one. Then look at the next one. Scotland is in there, playing against Mexico, and then England and Algeria. Yes, Mexico probably will move on against Scotland, but just Scotland, England in a round of 16 would be fun. England should make it out of there. Then playing against Brazil. 2002 vibes again. 2002 vibes again. I honestly, depending on how it goes, but when I think about the heat in the summer and so on, I actually see Brazil coming out of that one. But it could be England as well. And then we go to the bottom right. Argentina, Uruguay. I mean, wonderful. We had that in 1986 as well. Argentina will move on. And then Paraguay, Iran. So, I mean, we have three nations and three host nations of the junior host nations of the next World Cup in there as well. Interesting for sure. Argentina should come out of that one. And then they play against a cluster. Switzerland, Egypt, Portugal, Senegal. Switzerland, yes, over Egypt. I think Switzerland will win a knockout game at the World Cup finally. Portugal against Senegal will be interesting, but Portugal will prevail, and they should also prevail against Switzerland, although Switzerland is a team that definitely can give them trouble. But let's say Portugal, Argentina. I mean, what will this game be about? Yes, the last stand of the two big stars, and yes, Portugal have the firepower, but I would still think that Argentina is a much more settled team. So we would have in one semi-final, at least that's how I predict now, France against Spain, and in the other one, Brazil against Argentina. Boom! Boom! And then let's see, may the best one win. I have a hunch that Brazil could be dangerous. And it is so weird because Brazil have been in utter disarray. But given everything is falling kind of their way, I don't know. I mean, the normal choice would be to say a Spain-Argentina final and then potentially Spain winning it. Although I actually think if France get their team together, France are a superior team. And probably in this Final Four, I would hope that France would go all the way. But that's my thoughts. And yeah, I don't know what to say about Austria. I mean, it could be, as a third place team, you could end up also against Germany. You could if it falls differently, where else do we have third place teams? So this would be Germany. You could play the United States. This would be a dream. Although, you know, playing in the United States in the United States is probably not so much a dream. You could play against Switzerland. Switzerland is better than Austria, but I think Austrians would very much see themselves there. And you could also play in Mexico against Mexico. So, you know, it is not that impossible to get. But, you know, against England, I don't see Austria advancing against England. You could also play Belgium. There's also previous. And France. Yeah, you know. I still think one should go for third place in that group. Because either Spain or Uruguay, it's not gonna... I don't see any success there. You need to a little bit roll. The good thing is, now I'm taking again the Austrian view. Good thing for Austria is that while I think starting late at first might not be the most ideal, but it allows you enough preparation time to also acclimatize yourself. And Austria already know they play it in Santa Clara, so close to San Francisco, in this stupid stadium that they built there, where you know, the suits are all in the shade and everyone else is burning, so that's not good. Then you play either in Kansas City or in Dallas. I think all great stadiums. I'm afraid that all the Austria games will be late, but you know, be it as it may, I think that is all okay-ish. You have time to acclimatize. You need to be physically absolutely fit to be able to bear the heat, and then you can potentially survive. Austria's playing style is rather work intensive, so you need to have supreme fitness. But the other good thing is of being late is that you probably by the last match they know already how many points you would need, or whether you are more on the outside inside or the outside for the best third place teams, and I think this is also a slight advantage. My thoughts on the draw. What do you think about this draw? Do you agree with me that we have potentially two groups of death in F and I and potentially L, although I don't quite see it with you? Would also like to know, how did your team perform in this draw? Probably the wrong way to say it. Do you like the draw that your team got? I think this is the better way to say it. I'm just getting a little bit crazy here. But in any case, please drop a line below. I would be more than happy to hear from you on the draw. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like these. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. I'm planning to have my first real World Cup prediction ready for the playoff. Yes, underwhelming, but I have to give myself the time. I hope you understand. But in any case, one thing is for certain. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye!